Hi, this is a thought for the day. Good morning or afternoon. And this thought comes from my book, The Planet Earth series of lectures. We're in this book, Planet Earth, Her People, History, and Current Dilemma. And I'm reading from page 38. So, in the world of science, patterns, which are simply an arrangement of frequencies and particles, are called plasma. And it is this plasma that gives rise to physical matter. We begin as mind space and then transition into motion as consciousness and energy. And from there, the next stage is intelligence and particles. And after that is intent and pattern. And the pattern becomes the plasma. Each stage serves as the foundation for the next stage, and each stage carries all the capacities of the previous stage. This is how we get from God to frequency waves, to particles, to patterns that then build plants, animals, humans, planets, and everything in the entire universe. As already pointed out, but bears repeating, God is within us. We're made of him, it, her. We are taught that God created us, but if you take into account the above information, it would be more accurate to say that we are not created by God, rather that we are made of God. And this makes each of us a unique form of God material, an image of God, so to speak. God doesn't make you the way a potter shapes a clay pot. Instead, you are made out of self-organizing God stuff. In a way, God does create us, just not the way we were thinking it was done. The next big question is then, well, do you want to develop your capacity to reach that God self or not? Religions teach that God is outside the self and that you must go to a priest or a bishop or someone to reach him. They don't want you to know that you are a God in the making. The truth is, to get help, information, or insight that will allow you to fully develop yourself, you simply have to focus inside, talk to yourself, give yourself directions, ask questions, listen for that still small voice within, and then act accordingly. This is why the oldest commandment in the world is know thyself. The whole command is know thyself and you will know God. Although that last part is often omitted. Many of the arguments tossed about regarding who created us, whether or not we should create clones, allow abortions, fiddle with genetic modification, or tinker with DNA via CRISPR technology, are based on the idea of maintaining power in the hands of the church. And of course, the church insists that only God has such rights. Perhaps this idea is not all bad, given the fact that a lot of humans in power today abuse that power terribly. In the light of that fact, we might need somebody saying that only God has the right to play with life in order to limit the abuse. But we cannot grow up and mature spiritually if we do not begin to realize that we are the ones making the decisions that shape our reality. We have to develop a deep and balanced appreciation for life in its infinite forms and take responsibility for how we use our power, because consciousness is very powerful. Consciousness is energy in motion. Consciousness and energy are the two sides of one coin. Scientists long ago feared challenging the control of the Vatican, and so they entered into a tacit and unspoken agreement to deal only with physical matter and to leave the consciousness stuff alone, because that was the purview of religions. The result is that we stopped progressing with our spiritual development. In fact, we're regressing to the point of stupidity. The risk is that we will collapse and die out as a race of beings. However, I think there are a few things we should know and talk about before we get to that point, so that maybe we won't get to that point. The truth is that humanoid life across the cosmos is seeded by other humans who travel the stars looking for hospitable planets that could play host to some form of life, especially human life. Those cosmic travelers are highly developed beings who love life, and they're very wise. They are the ones who have taken on the responsibility for keeping the humanoid form of life going in its many configurations. The bottom line is that any pattern of life that comes together as plasma and then as matter is going to strive to reproduce itself. And reproduction is the first step toward becoming eternal. Some forms produce seeds, some produce eggs, and some produce live replicas, such as the tiny puppy or the human infant. We're pretty good at reproducing, but we have a long way to go before we become eternal. There have been tens of thousands of years that humans of various sizes, shapes, and intelligence have lived on planet Earth. And there have been many millions of years that humanoids have flourished as more evolved civilizations across the cosmos. Most people alive today are concerned mainly with life here and now. And so the further back in time we go, the more irrelevant those older civilizations can seem. However, you should at least be aware that we are not the most advanced people to ever live on planet Earth, nor are we the most likely to survive should our very fragile structures come under any more pressure than they are at the moment. Our lives are hanging by a few threads. We have some enormously important decisions to make if we want to survive and thrive. To make those decisions, we must look honestly at a number of things: our real history, who we are, what are our built-in potentials, how we want to live, and who are the people trying to influence us. Looking honestly at these will not be enough, however. We will have to begin communicating honestly and taking action that moves us in the direction we want to go. So as you go through your day, think about knowing thyself. How do you start a conversation with the inner teacher that lives within you? Where do you want to go? What kind of evolution are you interested in? How do you want life to be? Does it have to be the way it is right now, the way we all see it happening out there? Think about those things. And as you do, have a wonderful day. Take care.